I am so happy to introduce both Scott McMullin, Craig Branting, and Bob DiFranco, who are going to be sharing about their important Emergency Preparedness Committee and the work that they've been doing, why the group got started, and what all that they've accomplished and what they're doing going forward. And then they're going to show you a go bag and help you guys all prepare your own go bags. So I'm going to kick this off starting with Craig, and hopefully everybody can mute themselves if you're not already muted.
I'm Craig Branting, one of the co-chairs of the Emergency Preparedness Team, and this is a first for me at a Coffee Connection, so I'm relying on Scott to put up the slides that I have to go over with everyone. He's a little more technology savvy here. Here we go. Thank you, Scott. Okay, so our Emergency Preparedness Committee, or EPC as we call it, was formed about a year ago. And that was in the fall of 2019, when I think we were in our second or maybe even third year of these autumn wildfires that were coming through the Bay Area. There were also some evacuations in the northern counties of the Bay Area associated with the fires. And then, of course, to add to the mix, PG&E and other power suppliers began turning off power. Either planned or unplanned power outages were yet another thing for us to contend to. So this is something villages knew that we could do more for our members to help them be prepared and to be ready to act in the best way when one of these incidents occurs. The EPC is a group of about 10 people. We do rotate through the committee a little bit, but there's a core of people from both Sequoia and Mid-Peninsula Village, and we have both volunteers and members on our committee. We meet monthly, and certainly now by Zoom, but we've been meeting for the last year and keeping abreast of the things in the EP world. Our mission, since we don't have equipment, we don't have supplies, we don't have an evac center, we're not first responders. Bob will talk more about that in a moment, but the best use of our skills and experience is to help all the members be prepared for an incident. So what we're doing is facilitating preparedness for all of our members and providing ongoing education about the best responses to emergency incidents. Our first year, we have on the next slide a little summary of our accomplishments. First, we prepared an emergency response plan. Thanks, of course, to Bob, who did the lion's share of that. But it's a document that gives us an outline of what we will do, how we'll move forward when an incident occurs, how we'll mobilize our committee members and our volunteers. Now, since the villages covers most of the peninsula and has, a couple of hundred members, we needed to group it into smaller units. So we've established what we're calling neighborhoods, each with about 5 to 15 members. And then each neighborhood has at least 2, what we're calling neighborhood captains. People who, typically these are volunteers who have agreed to coordinate any actions in their neighborhood among the members in their zone. Next, back in the EPC, we briefed everyone on the use of the incident command system. The incident command system is the communications and really the management system for any emergency incidents that's widely used by fire, police. Most all emergency responding organizations will use ICS. We felt it was important for us to use this same framework so that we could liaise more effectively with true first responders or any agencies that we needed to interact with. So they would know we're using a system that they recognize. If we even had to turn something over to them, they would understand how we got to where we were. Next, we conducted a practice drill, emergency drill, just within our committee of about 10 people, we basically talked through how we would respond if an incident occurs on the peninsula. I think the drill our scenario involved earthquakes, a few small earthquakes that were shaking things and caused us to need to mobilize our group and activate our emergency response plan. Next, we reran the same drill with all the neighborhood captains that I mentioned. I think we had about 25 or 30 participants and walked everyone through the steps that we would use if we did respond to an actual drill. That gave everyone a little experience, got them to think about in a real life scenario how they'd handle some of these incidents that come up. The drills give us a chance to practice without the pressure of an actual incident, to stop, push pause, as we say, discuss an incident that happened, some little facet of that incident, decide how we'd handle, and then go back to walking through the drill. So those have been good experience for us and a good little bit of practice for everyone involved. On the first year, our activities, we have had articles in the newsletter on go bags. We really promote having go bags. Scott's going to be talking more about that in a moment. We did coordinate a Coffee Connection meeting some months ago with a guest speaker on home preparedness for seniors. One of our kind of a subgroup within the EPC sewed hundreds, literally hundreds of fabric masks and distributed those to members. That was a great effort. We also printed little magnetic labels that can be filled in for frequently called phone numbers. It's magnetic, you can stick it on your fridge or somewhere in your kitchen and keep those handy. And what we're doing now, I think we've probably completed the distribution of the Go Bag starter kits. This is just a 1 gallon size bag with a few key items and a list of resources for Go Bag, as well as a list of other things members may want to consider putting in their own Go Bag. So those are our activities. Scott, did you want me to also talk about the power outage?
Sure.
Okay, good. There was an incident, it's kind of a little case study, where I guess the member's name was Jan Smith, who became concerned about another member in her neighborhood who had some mobility challenges. And so when the power had gone out and was out well into the evening, she went over to visit the neighbor to see how she was doing. Well, she found a number of things, all of which she was able to address. First, the person who she was concerned about did not have a flashlight or a lantern that was available and fully charged. I think Jan provided her with that. The person had lit some candles for light. Now that, of course, is something we discourage because open flames are just too dangerous. She found that she could not use her telephone with the telephone system how it was set up, but Jan found that if she plugged the phone cord directly into a wall jack, it worked fine. So she got her phone working. Her cell phone needed charging. What we have looked into for this is there are little power packs about, I don't know what's that size, a little small battery that you can charge up, might take 24 hours to fully charge. That will remain charged for weeks, and you can charge your phone from that in a power outage. So that's a good preparedness item to have around. Two other messages. If you're not registered yet for SMC Alert, it's worth doing. It's a system that uses Everbridge, which is really the gold standard of emergency alert systems. You can use any search engine online, just put in SMC Alert, it'll send you to the site. You can then put in your name and profile, alert numbers, phone numbers, and it will automatically send you any alerts of of incidents or planned incidents. Now, finally, PG&E does provide a service to give you a notification of the planned power outages. You can either call this number and give them your information. They will then either call you in advance or send a text message of upcoming planned power outages. If you choose to register online, you can do the same thing. You can register. They will then either send a text message or a telephone call to your profile number. So those are just a couple of hints on preparedness and a little situation where the skills and knowledge of some of our members have helped out. So let me ask if there are any questions about what we've been talking about so far. I have a hand from Jan. And
Yes,
Jan,
I have a question about the power pack. Where do you get it?
gosh, I've gotten mine at. I wonder if Scott or Bob. Mine were giveaways at like conferences, so that's how I got mine. But I'm sure you can buy them at.
You can buy them on Amazon.
Amazon, great idea. Have it delivered to you. Jens, we're getting a no.
Okay.
Probably the big box hardware stores would have them.
Best Buy.
Best Buy should have them, and they also have a curbside delivery.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bob's muted but has a comment. I wish I had a better answer for that one.
Office Depot has them.
Great, Home Depot has them.
Craig, you can even get them at places like CVS and Walgreens. But the really heavy duty ones that you can use multiple times, you're probably going to want to order online.
There's also a battery store on El Camino Real next to the UPS store that has just a whole bunch of stuff. So they would probably have it.
I think online is a good option. There are a number like Best Buy or Amazon. You can shop and it'll be delivered to you. That's very convenient. So yeah. Other questions?
Yes, I have a quick question. When looking around for power packs, there are so many. I would appreciate seeing what this one looks like that you're talking about so that I know what I'm going to order. If I have a visual, I know what I want. Otherwise, there's so many choices. You know, it's kind of like a stumper.
Right. Okay. Well, let me do a little digging on that. I'll get it to there. Scott has one. It's about the size of a cell phone.
This one charges a cell phone, I think, 3 times on the juice that it can store.
What's the brand
And I
name?
think that costs somewhere in the $10 to $20 range.
And what brand is that, Scott? What does it say?
This one is a PowerMax brand, but I looked it up and it doesn't seem to be the most recommended one now. I bought something else again recently that actually will charge 6 times. So that's even better.
So that's what people should look for, is maybe in the description, not necessarily the brand, but that it charges up to 6 times or close to that.
Right. And of course, read the consumer ratings. Some are rated 5 stars and others not.
Any other questions or comments?
Craig, I thought I might just put up where you could describe the SMC alert, the kind of the process that you go through.
Sure. In general, it's an automated alert system to get an email or a phone call or a text. You need to get to SMC alert. Again, any search engine will take you there. You just need to put in a username and password, and create that credential. and then you can put in your profile, you can put in what phone numbers you'd like to be.
There we go. I'm not sure it's going to be live if I click on register now, but it might.
We'll see. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's an alert notification system. It's yet another user ID and password. But once you have that set up, it just runs on its own. You can, again, you can let it know what numbers it should use to send messages to. And it's a great system. It uses the program it uses is called Everbridge, and that's really the best of the automated notification systems.
Nancy, did you have a question? I
I
wasn't.
have a question about, now you have your pack and you're ready to leave, you have to leave your home. Do you lock your front door? You just leave it open or what?
I probably wouldn't bother.
Because
If first responders are coming around to check to see if the house is occupied, it'll make it easier for them to check inside without breaking the door down. And if what you're worried about are looters, people can kick a door in even if it is locked. So I would probably not bother to lock it.
Okay, thank you.
Personal decision, of course.
Yeah.
One thing I heard regarding the fires is they were recommending for the firemen to be able to look in the house without going in the house was to open all the blinds so and leave some lights on if the power's working so that they can look in the windows and not have to go charging through the house. But that was just in fires.
Well, that was really informative. Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
I think if there are no more questions, we will turn it over to Bob.
Thank you. Craig mentioned that one of the things that we did fairly early on in the as part of the emergency preparedness committee was to develop a procedure to try and give some structure to how we would go about responding to various kinds of emergencies. And one of the things that was clear was that, depending on how widespread and how serious an emergency was, the kind of response that would be appropriate would certainly be different. So the first thing we did was to try and define kinds of emergencies, ranging from widespread emergencies, such as a major earthquake that would take down infrastructure, take down communications, a lot of the kinds of things that we depend upon. A significant emergency would be one which resulted in some damage to infrastructure and communications and power, but not as bad as what we would consider a widespread. So a significant emergency, the Loma Prieta earthquake was probably, depending on where you were, but in San Mateo County, probably a significant emergency, but not a widespread one. It didn't take down much of our infrastructure in this county. Minor emergency might be one that would be limited to a few neighborhoods, but might be something like flooding or power outages or, say, a hazardous material spill. And individual emergencies would be things that affected one or maybe a few houses, such as some sort of a flooding event, or say a power pole going down, or something of that nature, where one or maybe a few of our members would be affected, but would be not the kind of thing that would require a deployment of the entire emergency process. As Craig mentioned, we divided up the membership into 17 neighborhoods, each of which has a number of members that could be handled by one or two people getting in contact with them. So 5 to 15 was the number we aimed for, mostly around 10, with 2 co-captains assigned to each neighborhood, which we've, for the purposes of the procedure, we defined as an NC team. And then the responsibilities for that NC team under each type of emergency were defined, so that people would know what they were supposed to do. Next slide, please. The NC teams are basically the eyes and ears for the village. They're the ones who are in an emergency going to be directly in contact with our members, and would be the first ones to try and contact them, either by phone in the case of situations where the telephones were still working, or in cases where that might not be the case. They might actually have to walk or drive over to the member's house just to check on them and see what their situation was. We emphasized that the NC teams are not first responders. We don't expect anybody to be running into burning buildings, moving materials out of the way to try and rescue people. Their job is to contact first responders or the village incident command. Craig mentioned the incident command system, and one of the things that would be part of this process is getting a group together who would field questions and gather information from the NC teams, and where necessary, forward that information to first responders or to family members or others that might be able to help. What we want to make sure does not happen, and any of you who have been part of the CERT training know this, you don't want your folks to become part of the problem rather than part of the solution. So that's why we ask people to not try to do things that they're not trained for and not equipped for. As Craig mentioned before, our goal is to try and make our members, our volunteers as well, some of whom are also members, resilient. Resilient in this case means able to respond rather than freeze, able to bounce back from difficult situations. And some of the things that we can do to help you are things like safety inspections to make sure that you have clear access to exits, and flashlights in places where you can get to them, and have actually thought about how you would get out of your home in various situations. Where would you go, and who would you contact, and what would you grab on the way out the door? The emergency contact list is one of the things. If I mean, obviously, you know who your emergency contacts are, but if somebody has to contact them for you and a first responder comes into your home, it's good that they'll have a list that they can see that will enable them to make some contacts for you. And then the third thing, of course, is the Go Kit, which Scott will be talking about and showing. Now we're providing a kind of a starter kit for you, but the Go Kit itself is something that each of you will have to put together for yourself, preferably in some kind of a bag or even a small rolling suitcase that you can take with you when you have to leave your house under emergency conditions. But I really want to emphasize that practice is a very, very important aspect of what we're talking about here. Even if it's just sort of a mental run through of what you would do in the case of an emergency. Being able to visualize how you would get to the door if you couldn't see, can you find your flashlight? Can you find your way downstairs if you're living upstairs? Can you get to a door? What would happen if you needed to clear a way to a door? Things of that nature. So just you want to at least try to run through it in a practice way to exit your home while grabbing your Go Kit. There's a saying within the emergency response community that you don't in general in an emergency you don't rise to the occasion. What you do is you sink to the level of your training. And so to the extent that you can train yourself, you will become more resilient and able to respond if and when something happens. We're hoping it never happens, but that is the purpose of this entire exercise. So I'm happy to take questions. Bill, Barb?
I never get to be on Zoom. It's always Barb.
I want to know, who are the captains? I don't know who the captain are. The ones that deliver the bag to me. Is that one of them, or the person that calls me over the weekend? Is it the second? I mean, is that we're assigned to groups with captains, and there's no information about who the people are.
Typically, your bag was probably delivered by one of your captains.
Oh, okay. And the other one that calls me on Sundays to see if I'm okay is the second one, right? You?
Not necessarily. There's another group that is calling people weekly to try and get just to make contact. Okay, back to Bill.
Thank you.
Sorry.
One of the tasks of the neighborhood captains was to contact the incident command. I haven't heard, is there a particular phone number that we contact? Something that will be available 24 hours a day? What's the setup? And what are the instructions?
That's an aspect of the procedure that we're still trying to work out, because there are circumstances under which we may not have good telecommunications, but there will be a number, and
Okay.
so that'll be an addition to the procedure.
Good. I thought I'd missed something.
Nope. Anything else?
I think Mary has a question. see a hand raised.
Okay,
Living-
please.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for this presentation. It's really excellent. Living in Redwood Shores, I know that we have, you know, special conditions because we have only one way to get out of Redwood Shores. So if it happens that we have to leave Redwood Shores, it would be good to have some kind of a plan for that. Right now, I'm so close to Ralston, that's probably where I'd head, but it may be blocked up. Or then, you know, I really don't know. I haven't really thought that through, but I think those of us that live in Redwood Shores need different kinds of instructions for big emergencies.
I will not disagree with you, and this was certainly demonstrated in spades with some of the fires up north, and down south. People living in small communities with basically one road in and out, and if that road became blocked or otherwise impassable, then evacuation became a real problem. I don't know what the plan is specifically for Redwood Shores. I know there are people. There's a fairly active CERT group in Redwood Shores that would undoubtedly come into play in an emergency. But if evacuation was required, after an earthquake, say, at this point, that certainly is beyond the scope of anything that the villages could do, but I'm sure is something that the first responder folks have thought about and probably have plans for, but I couldn't tell you what they are.
If there
We go
were,
about finding out. I mean, how would we know? Who would I contact? That smirk alert place, or I don't know who first responders are. How would I go about trying to get some information about that?
Well, by first responders, we're sort of, that's kind of a general catch-all for police, fire, the medical folks who serve that area. Sometimes that's also part of the fire department, but it may also be an independent ambulance service. I guess I would consider the CERT folks to be second responders. Some of them are trained in basic emergency response procedures, but generally operate under the guidance of people whose job it is to do those things. So I don't know that I could tell you specifically. If there's somebody here who knows,
I think Scott might have an idea.
go Scott.
For everybody here, you definitely should register on SMC Alert.
Of course.
And then if there's the type of disaster or emergency where evacuation is recommended, you will get a notice and they'll tell you what the evacuation route is for that particular situation. And that notice will come. I found out when I registered early in the morning one day while my wife was still asleep. I registered my email address, my home phone, and my cell phone. And then there was a button that said test alert. So I pushed it. Well, immediately I got a text message, an email, and the phone rang and woke up my wife. So you should try that and get familiar with the system. The evacuation route will not be the same for every type of disaster. And in some cases, Bob, tell me if I'm wrong, there won't be an evacuation. They maybe shelter in place, stay in place is the best thing to do.
Yeah, and unless there's going to be, for instance, a major subsidence in the Redwood Shores area, it's not likely that that there would be fire out there, but there could be liquefaction as a result of a major earthquake, and at that point, all bets are off as far as evacuation goes. You probably shelter in place is probably a better thing to do than trying to leave.
I would imagine, Mary, that you might be able to reach. I think there's a fire department in Redwood Shore, so you might be able to
Yes.
also just chat with them about. I mean, I would imagine if the roads are really blocked, they'd probably get some kind of water system boat or whatever to get you guys out of there. But you might want to chat with the fire department and just talk with them about different scenarios and what they might be able to advise you of what their plans could be.
So maybe in the interest of time, we should move on to the next segment, and then we can, those people that want to stay on and ask more questions, we can do that afterwards. Is that okay?
Works for me.
Okie doke. So Tom Clark is on hand to share with us a little video about go bags. Early in the year, the village dubbed this 2020 the year of getting prepared, and who knew all these things that were going to happen. So we've talked about go bags at least 3 or 4 times during our various presentations. And so today I want to really encourage all of you to watch this and to get your own go bag ready if you don't have it already. Hi, my name is Scott McMullin. I'm a volunteer leader for Villages of San Mateo County. And I want to give you an introduction to the go bag and why it's so important to have it. A go bag is a packed up and ready to go vessel that contains all the things that you think you might need in a several day period if you had to suddenly evacuate from your home during an emergency. Your go bag can consist of either a rolly duffel bag like this one, it could be a backpack, or it could be a rolly suitcase. Whatever is comfortable for you and big enough to contain the things that you want to take with you. Remember though, you're going to leave in a hurry. You don't want to be trying to carry a whole lot of heavy stuff. The go bag should be fully packed, fully ready to go, so that you don't even have to think about what you're taking when you leave. The go bag that my wife and I have weighs about 30 pounds. I'm going to take it apart now and show you how much can fit in this go bag to show you the typical things that you'll want to have. Well, first thing is, this is our go bag starter kit that was given to each of our village members. It contains 9 essential items, and I'll go through the list later, that were meant to encourage people to start creating their own go bag. So it has a list of the 9 essentials that are in the bag, and it also has a longer list of other things you should include. We've got all of our essential papers, or copies of them, including our contact lists of friends and relatives. Toiletries, including toilet paper. His clothing, and that's in 2 bags. Her clothing, also in 2 bags. Why are these things all in bags? There could be rain or sprinklers on if there's a fire in your house. It's good to have everything in waterproof bags. Plus it helps keep them organized. Here's a set of all-purpose tools, small tools, bowls and utensils, and a few other things that I learned from my Boy Scout days. There's his shoes and her shoes. In the side pockets, you have his jacket, her jacket, a small amount of food and snacks, and on the other side, several water bottles, heavy-duty trash bag. They have a lot of purposes, including a makeshift raincoat. Then in this little security pouch, I've got a small transistor radio. I keep the batteries separate because your go bag could sit there for years before you might need it. And you don't want batteries to be inside a device and then leak and ruin that device. Backup eyeglasses. A couple of weeks worth of medicines, but you'll have to keep refreshing this from time to time so they don't get old. Some cash, including quarters. It's recommended that you have quarters in case there are machines that might need the coins. And finally, in another pouch, there's my phone charger and a backup power supply that they call a power bank. This particular one could recharge my cell phone up to 6 times, even if I didn't have access to 110 volt power. So that's the deconstruction of our go bag. I want to now go through some of the individual components with you. So there's the bag itself. And yes, all of this did fit inside, as you saw, because I pulled it all out of the bag. This is the Go Bag starter kit that we gave to each one of our village members. It contains 9 really essential items listed here. And we also provided a list of other things that ought to go into a good go bag. There are lots of different lists that you can find on the internet or in emergency supply bulletins. I would say there's no one perfect go bag list. The most perfect one is probably the one that you make, that includes all of the things that are listed in the good comprehensive go bag list, plus anything else that you think you'll need. Some people may treasure a particular family heirloom and want to include that. But remember, if things are too heavy, you're going to have a hard time getting them out of the house. I'm going to just quickly review the 9 essential items that are included in our Go Bag starter kit. First aid kit is important for obvious reasons. Kleenex type tissues, an emergency foil blanket that provides a lot of warmth from a very lightweight and thin material, pen or pencil and paper, 3 items that might not have been included before COVID, but now we know how important they are: the mask, the alcohol wipes, and the hand sanitizer. A small flashlight, and again, keep the batteries separate if possible so that they don't ruin the flashlight if they leak, and an emergency whistle. You've learned a lot about emergency preparedness today and go bags, and one of the most important things to remember is when an emergency hits and the evacuation order comes, you don't have time to think and decide what to take. That's why having that go bag ready and near the front door is so important. Ours is on wheels because it weighs 30 pounds and I wouldn't want to carry it very far. So if the order comes, my wife and I will be sure we're clothed to some degree. We'll grab our wallets and purses if we have time, and then grab the go bag and get out. Take care and good luck. So there you have it. Everybody must do this, all right? Today is wasted if you don't all put your go bag together, and I'm serious. That starter kit that we gave to all of our members, the total cost of all those components ordered online from Amazon was about $17, the first aid kit being probably the most expensive single item, but they're all important. Water, somebody asked me yesterday, how long will the water last? And water doesn't officially have a shelf life requirement by the FDA, but a lot of water manufacturers are now putting 18 months or 2-year best before date on the bottle. Honestly, the water will still be good water for much longer than that, as long as it's stored in a not hot and sunlit location. Okay, so you want to keep your go bag so it will not get too warm. Some people are keeping it in the trunk of their car, and I would just caution that if you're driving around town, your trunk is going to get really hot sometimes. I don't think the trunk of your car is the best place to keep your go bag. If you do keep it in the car or in the garage at all, remember that if you're going to get in your car to get out, how are you going to get out of the garage if there's no power? So ahead of time, and Bob may have already mentioned this, but ahead of time, you should practice or at least understand how you can open your garage door if you don't have power. Usually if it's a power garage door opener, there's a little handle that comes down from the chain mechanism where you can release the door from the chain and lift the door. But be sure you understand how to do that ahead of time. You don't want to be trying to learn it while you're trying to evacuate. Food shelf life is another important factor. I said put snacks and food into your bag. You're going to have to rotate those just like you rotate the medicines. And I think that's all I have in the way of extra points to give you. Are there any questions now for any of us that have been talking today?
Those of us who have pets want to be sure that we include supplies for them.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a car, and I have to have a wheelchair, so this is going to make things a little bit difficult. So I probably should put my wheelchair right next to the door and put the bags on it and get it out that way. At night, my grandson lives with me, but if anything happens during the day, there's no one. So
I just had 2 things to say. I have a good friend who lived in LA through that very big earthquake they had 10 years ago or so, and she had a lot of damage to her house. She said that 2 things to be sure to remember is to have a pair of shoes by your bed, because there'll be broken glass all over as things fall out of the cupboard, and to have some duct tape. You're forever wanting to have something held up to put something not necessarily together to use, but to get out of your way. That's all.
Great tips. Thank you.
You could do some research about people like myself who live in apartments, about where to put. Now the garage, the trunk of the car is the best place, and then having a backpack that I can quickly get out. But we're going down several steps if we have to, or ladders and things like that. So emergency responders say about people in apartment buildings.
I don't have an answer for that. Do you, Bob or Craig? Some apartment buildings have little lockers down in the garage. If you're concerned about getting things down from a multi-story building, maybe that's where you can store things.
It's not really doable in emergency.
Yeah, otherwise, I can imagine, just pulling a rolly suitcase down the stairs. It wouldn't be a happy experience, but it might be what you have to do.
Yeah, I think that's probably that's keeping it near the front door is probably still the best situation. That if there's an elevator in the building, the elevator may very well be out. Certainly, if there are fires, the elevator is going to be out, and so you're going to need to be going down the stairs in any case. So think about that when you put together your go bag. Leave out the weight set, even though you might want to exercise after you get out.
And well, Scott, does your go bag have a shoulder belt that you could use for stairs?
It does, yeah. And your go bag, you should probably adapt it to your situation. So it's possible that a backpack type bag is best for people that are on higher stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point, Mike. There's some notes here. Somebody said maybe a backup set of keys, especially for the car. Another note says the library could be a good gathering place. But again, rely on SMC Alert to tell you where to go and what to do.
I think that was so helpful and informative, and I think we should all pledge to get our go bags together if we don't have them ready. And since there is another Coffee Connection next week, how about we all agree to have our bags ready before logging in to our Coffee Connection on Wednesday the 14th. That one is going to be, we're going to be joining the League of Women Voters webinar. They actually require a individual registration, so that's going to be a new experience for us. But I think it'll also be very informative to learn about local ballot measures. So yes to having our go bags ready before we log in next week. And I want to thank Scott, Bob, and Craig. I really appreciate all that's been going on in your committee, all that you're doing with the neighborhood captains, and that really wonderful, visually strong presentation so that all of us really know what to do and we have no more excuses not to get our go bags ready.
Before people leave, Delora, I'd like to really put in a plug about registering, because people are not registering. And again, I think it's next week. It's very important because we have to register with the League of Women Voters or you won't get in.
Right.
And secondly, it really helps us because we do keep statistics on who's attending and, you know, people where they live and stuff like that. It really helps if you don't just drop in, if you do register ahead of time.
Okay.
And I'm not quite sure next week if we want them to register both with us. They have to register with the League of Voters.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a little harder to pick out our people from all the people that are going to be attending. So
Sure.
I guess I'd like to ask that they register with both of us.
Okay. Jen, you had a comment?
Yeah, have we had an email telling us how to register with League of Women Voters?
It's the flyer should be coming out today, sometime today. It may have come in while we're on this call. I'm not sure, but it was supposed to hit a week before. So there will be information in that flyer. And if you don't get one, you should feel free to contact me or the office to say, how do we do that? But hopefully give us by the end of the day. And our lovely Lisa James, who puts the flyers together, was going to include the link to register. That's what the League of Women Voters requires. It's also on their website, but you can use the flyer, and I think that'll make it a little bit more straightforward.
So do we register with you guys ahead of time too, or just when we hit the link, or what?
It sounds like it would be helpful in order to watch it, you'll need to register through the League of Women Voters. But then for the village's purposes, great if you can also, I'm going to say send an email. Joan, do you want them to send an email to you directly?
No, send it to the office.
To the office? Okay, send an email to the office or call the office and let them know. If you're able to do that, that would be really helpful to let them know that you'll be participating.
And again, we really appreciate it because it makes our taking attendance earlier. But in this case, again, I want to emphasize, be sure to register with the League of Women Voters. We cannot do that for you, I don't think. So just calling the office will not get you registered with the League. So please, that's the most important one for next week, is to register with the League of Women Voters.
All right, is that a wrap?
Thank you, goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.